What is going on? Welcome back to Jiu-Jitsu Outlet. I'm sitting down with Jeffrey Banek. Jeffrey, I know that you've been training in Jiu-Jitsu since 2016, and it sounds like just from what we were talking about before we hit record, like you've trained with some freaking legends down there in Vegas. So can't wait to have you share your story, man. It's really good connecting with you. Been following you online for about a year now. I know that you're really big into the digital marketing scene. So I know we got a lot to talk about here today, man. So just want to start off by asking you the first question that we ask everyone to start off the episode, which is, how has training in the martial arts impacted your mental health over the time that you've been training?
I think that really, especially BJJ, just because you have to learn that even when you feel dominated, not to give up. You know what I mean? Like there's been certain times that you feel that someone's sinking a rear naked choke in, and you could easily just tap out, or you could actually fight it. And I think that learning to be able to overcome adversity and things like that, because I remember the first time I rolled, I had never actually rolled or wrestled with someone, and it's so different than when you see it on TV and you actually have a human being trying to stop you from doing stuff. And then when you finally get them on the ground, you're like, wow, I don't know what I should be doing here, when you first start out. So I think that relates so much to life and business, where you need to be able to take time to be able to understand that when things get tough, it's not always the best thing to tap out. You need to sometimes fight through it. And also it helped me to realize too that you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you just don't understand what you don't know until you're actually in the heat of battle. And that's one of the things when I first started rolling, I was just like, it's so different than you're watching the UFC. I mean, I've been watching the UFC since the very first one. I literally watched the first one live. So I've been watching it forever. And when you see it, it's like, oh, I could do that. I'll break out. I'll break out of that. When you do it for the first time, you're like, it's an eye-opening experience for sure.
Yeah, man, 100%. And it teaches you just how vulnerable you are. But it's crazy because it's something that transforms you over time. And eventually it shows you how confident you can be and how comfortable you can get in these uncomfortable situations.
Right.
And I bet that that's something that you carry over to your career in digital marketing quite a bit, like overcoming that adversity. Could you talk a little bit about that? Like, how has these lessons on the mat helped you in your career off the mat?
Oh man, I mean, I had so much adversity when I first started coming out. I originally started my digital marketing. I was a personal trainer trying to figure out how to move my personal training brand online. And when I first started, it was so hard because I was trying to learn everything. I didn't have a lot of money. We were maxing out our credit cards and everything, and we got to the point where I wasn't making any money. And my ex-wife and I, we were unfortunately divorced now, but we're together then. We were so broke we couldn't even pay rent. I had to literally pawn my wife's wedding ring just to be able to pay rent at one point. But because I kept pushing through, I kept believing in myself. I kept knowing that, hey, there's this light at the end of the tunnel. One day out of nowhere, a lot of you might not know about the ClickFunnels group or any of that, but there was this group of digital marketers I was in, and I was constantly providing value and helping them out and really just giving everything I had to this group to try and provide value to them. Well, one day this guy posted in there he needed help with his funnels, which are fancy websites for those who don't know what funnels are. But he needed help with his funnels. And because I've been helping so many people, all of a sudden out of nowhere, everybody tagged me on this post, like, Jeff's the guy, Jeff's the guy, Jeff's the guy, Jeff's the guy. Long story short, that wound up turning into my first 2 comma where we did 1.2 million in 57 days. It broke the record for fastest to a million. But then reflecting back on what we're talking about, I could have easily given up at so many junctions along this journey. I could have easily been like, hey, screw it. I'm going to go back to work, get a 9 to 5 and just give up. But because of the different trainings I had and the ability to persevere and push through difficult times, even when it got so bad that we had to pawn my wife's ring to pay rent, it was so bad. I mean, we had no money. I still pushed through because I knew if I believed in myself and kept pushing, there eventually would be that light at the end of the tunnel. And thank goodness it happened faster than later, but that had all led to everything that I've been able to accomplish now.
That perseverance is what you're talking about, and the resilience
Right.
that you get from the martial arts. It's powerful, man. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what were those early days like for you when you first started training? Like, did you ever think about quitting or like,
Oh,
oh, maybe this isn't for me? Like,
oh yeah,
talk
man.
about those early days a little bit.
Of course, yeah. There's plenty of times like that I would think I'd be like, do I really want to go train today? Because like, man, you're literally, especially when you first start going, you're just going to get beat up. You are the dummy that they're going to be choking out and practicing everything on. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's plenty of times when you first start out that you're just like, is this something I even want to pursue or keep going to? Because it's so easy not to show up. I mean, that's one of the things about life. You just don't show up and life will keep going by. But the people that do show up, the ones that really put forth the effort and that do persevere, those are the people that I've seen throughout my career that are the ones that do make it, that do keep going, you know, because it is easy to quit and go do something else, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, it really is. I trained some traditional martial arts as well when I was a little bit younger, when I was first starting out. And I had a teacher in ninjutsu named Leonard. A teacher,
sorry to cut you out, dude. I was a ninja fanatic when I was growing up too. Bussy, or
the
with
best.
Robert Bussy back in the day, dude. All those guys. I had his book. I wanted to be a ninja so bad when I was a kid.
Yep. No, when I was a kid, I used to dress up in a ninja costume and run around my neighborhood. Yep. You as well. I love it. Yep. It was the best. I would literally go for runs around my neighborhood, just dressed up as a ninja, like with my sword and everything.
Yeah.
And who knows what the neighbors thought.
Buddies and I,
they probably, I mean, I was trying to avoid detection, so they shouldn't have actually.
Right, you're sort of messing up if they saw you. So really, but no,
yeah,
I had all the shurikens. My whole back, you know, my fence was a wooden fence, and we'd draw. It's all tore up from us practicing. We'd go hide it in the middle of the night. We'd go to the school and we'd try and like sneak past the security guards in our outfits. Like, yeah, I had the whole thing. Black Belt magazine was one of the favorite things that I used to read back in the day. You know. So yeah, I, like you, have been doing martial arts off and on since I was a kid. I took a Mayin Kung Fu when I was 10 years old and got third in a tournament during that. So,
dude, that's epic. But yeah, I had this ninjutsu teacher, Leonard, and he taught us about what you're saying. He said that the big thing with the martial arts is everyone always says that it teaches you discipline, but there's never a time that this is what he told us. He said, you know, there's never a time that we're going to sit down in here and have discipline exercises. It's not like there's 5 minutes of class where he's like, all right, everyone, now we're going to focus on discipline. He's like, no, there's no discipline exercise. The discipline is just showing up and just coming to class and just being consistent. And he told us like that is the secret discipline that everyone's always after, is just show up, just keep on coming. Because like you said, man, it's so easy not to show up. So easy. So I wanted to ask you this, man. Let's say that there's someone listening to this and maybe they're in that space where you were. And I was there too, man. I remember when I was just starting out, maybe I'd been training like 2 years at this point. I've been training maybe even a little longer than that. And I remember driving home one day after it was a judo practice, and I just gotten absolutely demolished by everyone there. And I just felt like I wasn't really getting any better. And everyone else was like, you know, if I got a little bit better, everyone else was getting better too. And I could just never catch anyone at the gym. And I was just driving home thinking like, man, maybe I should just freaking quit. Like, it's clearly I'm not going to ever beat these people. So what would you say to someone like that who's maybe just earlier in their career? Or again, like maybe there's someone listening who's dealing with this kind of stuff in their career, kind of stretching that allegory over, and they're in that state where they might want to give up. What would you say to that person to kind of help them push through?
I mean, the easiest thing to really think about, there's two things really. The first of all is why you're doing it. I mean, why are you doing it? Are you doing it to learn how to defend yourself? Are you doing it to improve your physical stature? You want to make it in the UFC someday? Like, what is your why behind it? Because really, just like whether it's in business or in life, if you don't have a why, it's so easy to quit. It's so easy to give up. You know, there's always a real reason why you're doing anything. And then the other thing that really I think a lot of people overlook is just being grateful that you're able to do it. I mean, there's so many people in this world that would give anything to be able to roll on a mat again, you know, whether they're paralyzed or on their deathbed or who knows what their struggles in life are. So sometimes I think that you just need to, as much as it sucks, appreciate the suck, because when you make it through the suck, you get better. And everybody sucks at first. Nobody starts out, or maybe once every million people, there's some prodigy that's great out of the beginning, but nobody starts out a master. And if all the masters quit, where would everybody else be that they've taught and helped throughout their life and their journey? So realize by quitting early, you are possibly stopping someone from learning from you or experiencing you or whatever impact you can have on them down the road because you quit now. So don't quit.
I think sometimes about all the things that I quit over time. You know, like there's so many things that I did quit, and there's so many lessons in quitting. And I just wanted to ask you that, like, is there anything that you've ever had to quit in your life that you look back on and you're like, oh man, like I really shouldn't have done that? Or was there, conversely, was there ever a time that you quit something in your life and you feel like, oh, that was actually the right decision? Like, where's that line?
Well, like I said, when we were talking before this, I wanted to be a Navy SEAL when I was a kid. I literally, when I was in delayed entry program, I'd always wanted to be in the military. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. I graduated June 6th, and June 9th, I was in boot camp already, man. I was 3 days later after graduation. I was ready to go. And I went to Hell Week. I got to the fourth day. And this is one of my biggest regrets. I mean, I got lucky and wound up going to second force with the Marines, but I quit. It was the worst experience. One of the worst experiences I've ever had during the 4 days I was still in it. I got a total of like 2 to 3 hours sleep. They just beat you the entire time doing calisthenics and stuff and mind games. And that's always still one of the things I regret a little bit. But I also look at it this way. If I hadn't quit in that instance, and yes, I still do regret it, but would I be where I am today? You know what I mean? Like, if you have to really look at it, what if I had made it and I'd become a Navy SEAL? Sure, I could have done great there, but all the people that I've affected, I have people reach out to me all the time, tell me how I've changed their lives by teaching them stuff and things like that. So how many people that I've impacted now that I might not have? So as much as I look back on that and I still sort of, it's got that knife in my gut, I don't really regret it as much as you might think, just because I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't quit. You know?
Yeah, I think there's an important line there in knowing what to quit, when to quit. And there's certain instances in life where, I don't know, quitting seems like it could be the right option. But I just feel like with the vast majority of things in life, it's not. And
100%.
And we should persevere with, you know, whatever it is that we set our minds to. And that's one of the biggest things that I feel like a lot I've gotten from training, and from talking to you, it sounds like that you've gotten from training as well, is like that kind of never quit mentality.
Yeah. I mean, there's always ups and downs in life, and it's always easy to quit. It's, people don't realize, they're like, oh, you know, quitting's not that easy, but it really is. It's easy to do nothing. That's the hard part, is to keep pushing through. And a lot of times too, it's the belief in yourself. You know what I mean? It's a belief that you can do more, do better. That's sometimes the hardest thing to really do, is just to keep that belief, especially when you do have defeat after defeat.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you almost feel like a crazy person for still believing in yourself because you failed so many times. But I feel like that is the magic in a certain degree, is you almost have to have this absurd level of belief in yourself that you're going to be able to achieve the thing. And it's like what Steve Jobs says, the only people that change the world are the people who are crazy enough to think that they actually can.
Yeah.
And it's the same sort of thing. You just kind of have to develop that almost like unnatural ability to keep going. And I think you're right. Jiu-Jitsu and the martial arts teaches you how to do that. It like trains you constantly in that never quit mentality.
Yeah. One of my buddies, Tanner Chittister, he's a good friend of mine. I was talking to him the other day, and we were talking about the same thing. And he was like, he's now done, I want to say, almost 100 million in sales in the last like 5 years. And he was saying the same thing, that one of the things that allowed him to be successful is he just had this unrelenting, almost like crazy belief in himself that he was going to do it no matter what. It didn't matter what happened, what failure he had, what setback he had. He knew that that was just a stepping stone to be able to be successful. Because really, when you have a failure, it's only really a failure when you don't learn something from it, when you repeat it again, you know?
Yeah. I was watching this YouTube short by this guy named Caden Henschel, I think is his name, but he's a wrestler and he's got a big YouTube channel, and I really like his content. I've been trying to get him on this show, but, and he was talking about this in one of his shorts. He was saying that one of the best things he did to improve his wrestling was think that he's 10 times better than he actually is. And he just said, if you wrestle like you're never going to fail, you're going to magically get a lot better. He said, just imagine that you're not going to fail. And he's like, it's amazing how much more confident you get if you're shooting for a takedown on your opponent and you just are shooting as if you're going to take him down. And there's no way that you can not take him down. And I was like, man, that's so powerful. So that's like something I've really been focused on in my training, is like just thinking like, man, I'm the greatest. Yeah. No way I can fail.
Yeah.
It changes the game. You go for moves that otherwise you wouldn't go for. And then if you get in a bad position, you're like, oh, whatever. I was just, fight out of it. Learn how to fight out of it.
Relating that, you go right to business just as well, where you'll be doing things that you normally wouldn't do, or putting out products or making moves that you normally wouldn't, because if you didn't believe in yourself, but because you do, and you have that unrelenting desire to know you're going to be successful, you'll try things you normally wouldn't. You might succeed, you might fail, but the point is you tried. And so often you won't even try if you don't believe in yourself enough.
Yeah, that's so true, man. What do you think is something that people could do to get feeling a little more confident or feel better, like they can take those sorts of opportunities? I mean, obviously training in martial arts helps, but like what else kind of helped you achieve that level of confidence?
I mean, I don't want to get too woo-woo type stuff, but you really like sitting, like self-meditation and self-actualization and looking in and really believe, like, mantras of saying it. Like even this morning, I was doing meditation this morning. I was just like, dude, I'm put on this earth to be able to change people's lives and to be able to create impact in the world. And just saying that and believing it and repeating it allows it to sink in and become a reality to you, because until you believe it, you can never be it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I've had the same sort of experience with that. What do you think that is? Like, what do you attribute that to? Do you think that there's something spiritual going on there? Or is it more like you're programming your mind to be successful? Or what exactly is going on? Like, do we live in a simulation? What do you think? How do you think this all works?
Well, it could be. We could be in a simulation. Who knows? I don't really know about that. I've definitely contemplated a couple times. But I think it really is just the ability to like wire your brain. Like if you tell yourself you're dumb enough, you're going to always feel stupid. It's just the way. But if you do the opposite, you almost to some degree, you almost have to lie to yourself until you believe it to some degree. You know what I mean? Like even in your mind, you're like, I'm going to do this. There's that little bit. No, you're not. But you just, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And then eventually you do it,
Yeah, I think you're right. Have you read the book Prosperity Consciousness? Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
It's really good. And there's one part of the book he talks about, basically he said, let's do an exercise. He's like, here's the exercise I want you to do is sit in your chair and for 10 minutes, just imagine yourself getting sick and just imagine just feeling terrible and just feeling like there's just a plague that's entered your body and it's gotten to the very core of you. He's like, let's do that for like 10 minutes. And then right away, he's like, okay, does anyone want to actually do this exercise? Obviously, no. Obviously, you don't want to do that exercise. Right. And the next question he asks is like, do you think that would make you feel worse? Like, do you think that after doing that exercise, you would feel more sick or you'd feel worse? Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, probably. You probably would feel worse. And he's like, okay, then why don't we do that? Why don't we do the opposite? Or why do we think that doing the opposite of that would not help? It's like, why not sit around and just think, oh, I'm feeling great. Mm-hmm. I feel great all the time. Wouldn't that have the converse effect? And I think it's totally true.
Yeah, sometimes, especially at the beginning, like I was saying, you almost have to lie to yourself a little bit until you believe it, because initially, it's very rare that you're going to believe it when you first start out. It's very rare that you're going to believe it. But if you keep saying it, you keep practicing it, you keep pushing it, eventually your beliefs become realities.
Yeah, I feel like you almost have to step into it. Like it's a little bit of fake it till you make it. But 100%. I found that if you do, then you start to make it though. That's the thing. And then you start to believe even more. But there is like that brief period where you just kind of have to tell yourself like, man, I'm capable of doing this. I can do this thing.
Especially till you get some lick of success, whether it's your first takedown or tap out or whatever it is, or first $1,000 you make in business or whatever. Until you get that first taste of success, you really just have to go fully on just belief in yourself and knowing that you're meant to be whatever your goal is, that's what you're meant to do. I believe all of us are here for some reason, And it's up to you to find what that reason is.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I feel like that's the question that gives people a lot of trouble sometimes, is like, what's my purpose? What am I supposed to do here? Like, how did you figure that out? I know that earlier you're talking about wanting to help a lot of people. How did you find that sort of purpose?
Yeah, I've always had this deep burning desire and felt that I was put here to be able to change people's lives and to help people. And then I just lucked out when I got in this digital marketing world. I read this book one day. I was studying underneath this guy named Bedros Keuilian. He was a digital marketer guy that was teaching people how to sell their personal training brands online. And one day he held up this book, .com Secrets, from some dude, Russell Brunson or whatever, and mentor told me to read it, so I read it. And when I did, it just opened my eyes to all this potential out there. Like, I'm sure some of the people, the first time they get on the mat, they start seeing, wow, this is such an amazing sport that we could be a part of, you know? So once that started happening, that was really what opened my eyes on the potential that could happen. And then from there, I just saw that by teaching people and helping them out, that I was able to impact people's lives in a massive way. And it just sort of fueled what I already believed in myself to be able to use it in this capacity to keep going and going.
I love that, man. .com Secrets is a powerful book.
Oh yeah, it
And
changed my life.
I read, yeah, it's powerful. Russell's content is super powerful for anyone who wants to learn about kind of how to do the online marketing thing. And man, that's amazing. It's powerful what that little book has done for people, especially considering he gave it away for free, basically.
Yeah, free plus shipping.
It's powerful, man. So I wanted to ask you this, like, what steps did you take to grow that skill set and become someone who works online and basically like works on your own terms? Can you walk us through some of those early days? Because I know there's a lot of people listening who are interested in becoming entrepreneurs or starting some sort of a business.
Well, it was really first. I mean, again, I owe so much to Russell. So much of the stuff that I know now, I've learned from him as a mentor. But originally it was figuring out what my end goal was, which was become a master funnel builder, which again are just fancy websites that are used to sell stuff online, but to become a master at that and then sort of reverse engineer it. I think that's really what you need to do, is like, what is your end goal? What do you want to accomplish? And then what are the steps to be able to get there? Because so many people just look at that end goal and they're like, oh, I want to make $1 million. I want to get a black belt, whatever it is. What are the steps you need to be able to become that person? Because the number one thing you need to realize, the person you are now is not the person you'll be when you accomplish that goal. You will be someone different. And if you try and stay the same, you will never, ever reach that goal. So figure out what it is, figure out the steps you need to do to be able to become that person, and then start doing it. I mean, it's really sort of that simple. I mean, it's the simplest but hardest thing you're ever going to do.
Just like jiu-jitsu or hitting a double leg takedown.
Exactly.
It's really simple,
exactly,
but hard to hit sometimes. Hard to hit.
Exactly, man.
It's powerful. Well, Jeffrey, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. Is there anything else that you'd like to share? Like, let's say, again, there's someone listening and they're maybe just getting started in their journey. Like, is there anything you'd like to leave them with?
I mean, it's cheesy, but like, don't give up, man. It's because your success could literally be around the corner. You go for that double leg 6 times, but maybe it's the 7th is the one that you finally hit it. And then from then on, it's always going to be great. So realize that success is usually right around the corner. The difference between the people that become champions and those that don't, the ones that don't quit that one step too early.
Man, that's powerful.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of cheesy, people say that, but it's the truth, man. It's the truth. Just don't give up. Just keep pushing through. Believe in yourself. Figure out what your goals are. I think the biggest thing is you need to figure out what is your end goal, whether it's becoming a black belt or winning a title or making $1 million or whatever it is. You have to have some type of vision, some type of drive or endpoint that you're looking to get to, because if you're just sort of floating through life, it's going to be hard for you to be able to know what to reverse engineer to be able to become the person you want to become.
Getting clear on that. And that helps with manifesting it into reality. Like, you have to know where you're headed. It's going to be really hard to get to a destination if you don't have a map or any sort of way to get there.
Exactly.
Man, this has been a great conversation. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Is there where can people go if they want to learn more about what you're doing, or if they want to follow you up with you online?
Yeah, you can just go to funneldoc.com. That's FUNNELDOC.com, and everything will be there.
Okay, awesome, man. I'll put the links down below in the show notes. So if you want to check out Jeffrey and see everything he's working on, go check it out. Appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Peace.